But yeah, I did see Godzilla Minus One very recently. I saw it last weekend. I saw it like the day after I saw Wonka. Very different vibe, I gotta tell you, with Godzilla Minus One. Very different vibe. I can confidently tell you that Godzilla Minus One is not a musical. It is, however, in Japanese subtitles, which the trailers sometimes will hide from you, which is fine. When I was a kid, all the trailers for Pan's Labyrinth were coming out. I was like, dude, this movie looks cool. It looks so dreamy. And I was a kid, okay? I don't mind watching the movies with subtitles now. I've watched Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad will have whole half episodes uh, in subtitles. And did that annoy me? Yes, but I was so invested in the story, I'll watch it. I'm fine with subtitles. But the trailers for Godzilla Minus One hid the subtitles, and Pan's Labyrinth hid the subtitles. When I was a kid, when I begged my parents to rent it, they were like, "This has Spanish subtitles." When we got home and put it on TV, it has Spanish subtitles. And my dad kept watching it. My dad will watch he'll watch anything. I'll catch my dad watching stinking Bollywood movies on Netflix, and he'll just watch it, which is fine. That's what I love. He'll watch anything. He might not pay wholly attention to all of it, and he might not even know. I hate it when like something I'll be like, "Wow, this looks interesting," and then I'll be like, "What's it called?" He's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "How are you keeping track?" He doesn't. But yeah, I didn't love that when I was a kid. Granted, I was a kid. I do need to see Pan's Labyrinth, and now as an adult, because I think it would probably be pretty good. But I knew that Godzilla Minus One was a Japanese Godzilla because a couple years ago, well, not a couple years ago, I was in college. That was many years ago. Oh gosh. My friend Cameron, he dragged me and my friend Autumn to see not Godzilla, Shin Godzilla. I need to look that up too. And Shin Godzilla was crazy, and it's very different. And it's also very different from Godzilla Minus One, although it is the same director, I believe. Wait, hold up. No, not the same director. I've been saying that to people for so long, and I was lying. Okay, so no, not the same director, but it is the last Japanese Godzilla movie that came out a couple of years ago. But it produced by Toho Studios. Toho does the OG Godzilla. They did OG Godzilla way back in the day. They did Godzilla now, and they started I think they stopped for a little bit, and then we effed up Godzilla so much here in America in the 2000s or whatever that they were like, okay, we gotta do good Godzillas just to show that how to make good Godzillas, and they kept going. Shin Godzilla was really cool, and it was like criticizing the Japanese government, which is really interesting because Godzilla back in the day was criticizing the Americans, like the OG Godzilla, because it's like a metaphor for the nuclear bombs and stuff. And now they're using it to trash on the Japanese government. Like Shin Godzilla was messing, was, the themes. Okay, yes, thank you. Okay. Shin Godzilla drew inspiration from the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster and the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Yeah, that's right. There were tsunamis in there. Yes, because in Shin Godzilla, Godzilla attacks. Godzilla is so cool. Godzilla is like birthed onto the street as a giant blobulous organism. You're like, what is this? How's this Godzilla? That's a weird blob. And slowly over time morphs into Godzilla. But it's criticizing how long it took the Japanese government to try to do anything. Meanwhile, this effing, natural disaster is going on, and we have people suffering, and we're not doing anything. We're just sitting around talking in boardrooms trying to figure out what to do. So I think that's what Shin Godzilla was criticizing in the Japanese government. And in that movie, there is a whole lot of talking in boardrooms and strange subtitle placement, For some reason, I think they're trying to do something like different, a different Asian language on top of the English dub, or yeah, the English subtitles. So basically, there are English subtitles on the bottom. Then there's some other Japanese or Chinese or some foreign language on the sides for I guess another country, and then another subtitles sometimes on the top to show the locations of the movie. And sometimes you'll have four, things of subtitles up and down and all around on the frame. It was weird, but it was a cool novelty for me when I saw it back in, I think I saw it in Texarkana at Cinemark. That's neither here nor there. Shin Godzilla was good, and that's the first time I ever seen a Japanese Godzilla in theaters. So I had no qualms seeing Godzilla Minus One in theaters, and it was cool. This one takes place a little after World War II, and it's in the 40s, and it's also criticizing the Japanese government, but it's criticizing them from back then, criticizing the use of kamikaze pilots and the idea of dying for your country and and somehow dying for your country meaning you're dying of honor, and that's the only way you can die of honor, instead of living with your family and trying to stay alive. Very cool themes in that. I like the idea of that, and also I think that goes beyond just Japanese government. I think that goes beyond that's a worldwide thing. Like why? What is dying? Like, it's one thing if you want to like protect your country or try to like fight for your people or whatever, but also there is also 1,000 other things you could do that is way harder than just dying. And that's not me criticizing any soldiers or anything. That's just it's like you want to live for your people, live for your friends and family, if you can. No shame, of course, if you do die, but also no shame if you live. That's the basic point. Like, it kind of follows like a kamikaze pilot. This is the basic premise. It's not really a spoiler. It follows this guy who's like a kamikaze pilot, and it's towards the end of the war, and he was too scared to go straight to kamikazing, so he stopped in like this little island to take a little break, and then Godzilla attacks, and well, he ends up not having to go kamikaze because everybody on the stinking island died, and he's like, oh my god. And then he goes home, and he sort of builds a little makeshift family with this one lady and a kid, and they sort of just start living together, and he's living with this guilt forever about like, oh, I should have died for my country, I should have done my duty. And so the whole movie he's still struggling with this idea that, and he sees Godzilla again, and for some reason he feels like a personal responsibility, like, should I be the one to go kill Godzilla? And he just sort of ends up in the middle of trying to take down Godzilla. And it's really so cool. I really love how they do, like, especially in this movie, they don't make a big deal about the whole giant lizard thing. They're just like, it's Godzilla. And I love at the point that they could just do that. They could just be like, it's Godzilla. Like, literally in the beginning, they're like, hey, look, it's Godzilla. There was no, like, they just knew, hey, it's Godzilla. That's the word we use for that giant lizard over there. Yeah, we know that thing exists. And I love that they don't, like, mention any past, like, reputation that Godzilla had. But I just love the idea of, like, it's like Debo coming down the street. It's like, oh, look, hey, watch out, Debo's coming. It's like, oh, no. Or, like, in The Wire, Omar coming. It's just like, hey, it's Godzilla. You get the gist. Let's go. And they're just trying to get away. I loved all that. Also, especially having just seen Oppenheimer like a couple months ago and saw that in IMAX, and it was like explosive, like space shuttle level, just sound and explosions. When Godzilla uses his atomic breath, first of all, the thing that they do with his tail is next level awesome. I was gonna say hard. It is hard. It goes hard. I don't know if people say that anymore. Uh, but it's like it like it's like I'm stuttering because it's like it has a charge, which is cool, and it doesn't charge like the womp 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 that we have here in America. In America, we go womp 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 womp. Instead, it's like bink, 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 and he shoots out a beam, and then it's sort of like Oppenheimer, where you see like the impact first, and then you just and you just see a giant, devastating nuclear explosion, and it's huge, and you're like, oh my god, and you're just seeing. And I loved it too. Well, I hated it. It was devastating, but it was so cool too. It was devastatingly cool. In like they're like 30,000 people just died from that one blast. 30,000. It's like, oh my gosh. And then there's a lot of I love in Shin Godzilla they had a cool way of doing of how they have to beat Godzilla. They use like a bunch of cranes and a lot of like service and emergency vehicles. I love that metaphor. It's so good. And they use those to fight Godzilla. In Shin Godzilla, they're using a bunch of these mining boats, these boats that are trying to like take out old war mines, which is already a dangerous job. And throughout the movie, just see Godzilla chasing them. And the one shot that I thought was cool was seeing the mouth trying to bite the boat. It looked like a real mouth. I don't know if that was like a giant practical thing or if the CG is just that good, because the CG is incredible in the movie. It looks so real. They even animate God it's mostly a CG Godzilla. I don't know if they ever do a practical Godzilla, but they make him purposefully rigid. Like his arms are stuck to his side, and he walks really clunkily, as if there is a man trying not to fall in this lizard suit, which is really cool. But the part that really, when he's chasing the boats, is just seeing his giant, sharp, kind of like shark fins sticking out of the water, and you're just looking at basically a giant blade mountain chase you from the sea. It's like, oh my god, please don't kill me. And he eats people. And like early on, it's a few years before, so he's a little smaller, which I love. I love that they never explain that. Like maybe Godzilla like was born around then, and he's just been constant wreaking havoc, and now he's just gotten bigger. I don't know. But he was a little smaller. He's like eating people. He's like, come here, and he's like chewing up on people. So this is terrifying Godzilla. He's doing nuclear blasts. Japan just doesn't run out of ways to make Godzilla crazy and cool and intimidating and scary still. And I gotta applaud. Unfortunately, it's not going to be able to be nominated for like Best International Picture, International Best Picture for the Oscars, because I guess every country only has so many slots for what they can nominate, and they only, or maybe only can only nominate one. But they nominated The Boy and the Heron, which is or Heron, which is the last Miyazaki movie, which I'm not really familiar with Miyazaki and all the Studio Ghibli movies. I've seen a few, Spirited Away, that's it. But I mean, I think it's probably still going to be nominated and do fine, but people are really like, Godzilla Minus One is, like, pretty good. And it really is. Like, there's so much. Throughout the whole movie, I was like, this is really good. This is devastating. I was like, this is depressing. And there's a part in the movie where I was like, man, this could be really depressing. This could end depressingly. And I'm going to spoil. Well, I'm not spoiling it. I'm just saying it doesn't end as depressingly as I thought it would end. And having spent sort of like an hour and a half, I love also, it's only 2 hours, does not overstay its welcome at all. So bring me back to that. Oscar movie should only be 2 hours if it was an Oscar movie. Uh, but there's so long you spend sort of like in a really kind of dark place with the movie, and also being like, whoa, that was cool, but also that was really bad. At the end, it does end with a real warm, fuzzy type ending ish. Depends on how you also look at it, but I was like, okay, that brought that up from like a, if it was like an 8, it brought it up to a 9. If it was a 9, it brought it up to a 10, and in that way, because it was a different type of a different emotion one, and also like something I didn't expect to feel at the end of the movie, which was also really cool. So yeah, Godzilla Minus One, definitely see it. Very fun, and try to catch it if you can. It was supposed to be in theaters only like a week, only 2 weeks, but it's expanded. People are really going after it. Also, it came out at a perfect time. Uh, Godzilla Minus One had come out, and the marketing for that stuff was coming out. And then when the reviews came out, that was really good. They released the Godzilla Kong team up movie, whatever that is, uh, trailer for that, the our American Godzilla and Kong movie. So they released a trailer for that, and also on top of that, they had that Monarch show with Kurt and Wyatt Russell, the father-son duo, both playing the same character in the show. What is it called? Monarch. Uh, Mystery of Monarch, or Monarch Mysteries, or something like that. I don't know what it's called, but it's basically just the American Godzilla movies. Weird little company that's behind all the stinking big giant monster stuff. They made a little TV show about it, and people are liking it. And it also has a bunch of little giant monsters in it. So yeah, good time to be a fan of giant monsters. So no problem there. No problems there.